Saturday should not be much of a challenge from Boston College, but they need to take care of business and easily defeat the Rams. I'll explain how they'll do it on today's show.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is Locked On Boston College, your team every day. I'm your host, AJ Black of Eagle Insider, part of the 247 Network. Thank you all for making us part of your daily routine. We are a free podcast available 5 days a week on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. On today's show, we're going to give you predictions and prop bets on the Boston College Fordham game. What are some big, and what are we looking for? Are there big things that we're concerned of? And how does BC's offense and defense line up against Fordham? We'll get into all that on today's show. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Now, for this show, who are you going to bring on? No one else but Mitchell Wolfe of Eagle Insider to talk about this game. Mitch, how are we doing?
Doing fine, aside from our technical difficulties that I'm pretty sure on my end due to trying to podcast from too far away from the router. So hopefully we can get through this recording finally and actually talk about the real game without interruption.
So college football is already off and running. NC State just held on to beat ECU on a thriller. But this weekend, we're not really expecting much in terms of a battle. But it's a big game for BC because Dylan Lonergan is starting off as quarterback. What are you expecting out of Dylan Lonergan in his first game as starter at BC?
I'm expecting him to not be asked to do a ton. I think BC is going to try to keep a lot of their passing game and offense in general under wraps for Michigan State. And for when we get into the real schedule, you're going to see him throw a lot of short throws, get rid of the ball quickly, make good decisions, make quick decisions, get the ball into hands of his playmakers so they can create yards after the catch. You're not going to see him throw the ball down the field. You're not going to see a ton. You're not going to see him see a lot of exotic formations and motions and shifts and everything. It's going to be a pretty simple offense, pretty vanilla, which might lead to a bit of a slow start for the offense, but give it time. They'll get going. I feel like the offense is going to be fine. It's just Fordham is a pretty bad FCS team. They were 2-10 last year. They didn't beat a single team with a record better than 500. So yeah, and I don't think they're going to have any problem on offense.
And you mentioned before in one of our other runs throughs that Bowling Green destroyed them last year, and Bowling Green wasn't all that good either.
They were a fine, MAC team, but they destroyed Fordham, and so BC is better than Bowling Green, so therefore BC shouldn't have a problem.
Now, I was looking at the depth chart, and the offensive line is big again this year. They're always big for BC. You got Kevin Klein coming in at like 320 pounds. Even your center this year, Dwayne Alec, is bigger than what we saw with Drew Kendall and Alec Lindstrom, I believe. Mm-hmm. How do you feel like this group is going to fare against an FCS Fordham defensive front?
I think this is the most interesting matchup because Fordham's defensive line is the strength of their defense. They bring back 3 starters, both defensive tackles. They're one defensive end, and they rotate a bunch of guys there, so they have experience. They do lose their version of Donovan Ezeraku, Matt Jaworski, who graduated. He was the Patriot League Defensive Player of the Year last year, so that's a problem for them. But I think ultimately BC's offensive line is made up of almost exclusively, well, I guess not with Eric Stockerty expected to start at left guard, but you're getting some guys moving around, but you've got guys who are 4th, 5th, 6th-year players. They're older, they're bigger, they're stronger than most of Fordham's defensive line. So I think you should see BC able to have some success there. Fordham's not a very blitz-heavy team. Their defense is pretty stagnant and stable. You're going to see them play a lot of base defense, play 2 high safeties, keep everything in front of them, which is going to it's kind of good work with BC's what BC wants to do on offense in this game. But so you're not going to see a ton of complex stuff from them either. So I think BC should be able to handle this defense fine.
And the mix between pass and run and overall just the scheme. I've said all along that there's no reason that BC should be doing anything out of the ordinary. This should be, as vanilla as it gets. Like, do not put anything on film for Michigan State and the other teams you're playing. You don't need to do a whole lot to beat Fordham. Just keep it simple, stupid, and let the people online yell and scream about Will Lawing, but knowing that they don't need to do this. Am I right?
Yes. Yeah, you're not going to see a bunch of crazy stuff happen. Honestly, this game is not going to be a great one to use to create takeaways as to what the offense is going to look like with Lonergan this year. It'll probably look pretty similar to what they did last year, not only against Duquesne, but against pretty much the entire schedule. So you're not going to see anything too crazy. So I think BC should be able to move the ball. They're going to have significantly better athletes on the outside. Fordham doesn't really have a guy that can run with Reed Harris or cover Lewis Bond out of the slot consistently. And like we said, BC's line is bigger, stronger. They should be able to run the ball pretty well, even if Turbo Richard doesn't go due to the cut on his hand. But Jordan McDonald's a big, strong running back. Alex Broom is a solid third down back. You've got guys that can make this work without too much of a problem.
All right, now on the defensive side of the ball, BC's defense against Fordham's offense. We still don't know who Fordham's quarterback is. Bill's made it sound like there's two that could be playing. Should we be concerned about either?
Not really. The returning starter, quote unquote starter, is Jack Capaldi, who I believe he had 8 touchdowns to 10 or 11 interceptions last year, and then had 12 fumbles as well when he was the starter for 7 games, I think. So not too great of numbers there. Fordham's offense is kind of what you'll see from Tennessee or South Florida, in that it's a spread and shred. They're going to put their receivers very far away from the ball, try to spread the defense out, make them defend every blade of grass. And then once the defense is spread out, they'll run the ball up the middle, basically until the defense overcommits to it. Then they'll throw quick passes to the outside. And eventually, once they get that going for a little bit, they'll try to hit a double move off play action on the outside. But Capaldi's not a very good quarterback. The backup Trip Holly, he started in 1 game in relief last year, wasn't much better. They have this other guy, Gunnar Smith, who he's been at UCF and USF, and then he was at JUCO last year. He didn't play at either of the directional Floridas, and then was decent at the JUCO level, but there's not really any reason to be afraid of him. So, there's the question of who's the quarterback going to be, but I don't think BC should be really afraid of any of them.
And are there any playmakers on that team? Are there any wide receivers or running backs or anything?
They lost their leading rusher, Julius Lowridge. He transferred to South Dakota State. They lose their top 3 target earners from last year at receiver. The one receiving weapon I am interested in is tight end Matt Baron. I believe he's number 80. Oh, he's number 1 now. He switched from number 85 to number 1. And he's from Bridgewater, Massachusetts. He went to Choate, at least for his final year. So this is a homecoming for him. He's a pretty good player. He's 6'5", 255. He brings some size to the position. So I think he's the one real offensive threat BC's going to need to worry about.
So you're looking at both sides of this ball. I go back to 2023 when Castellanos played against Holy Cross and we held on by the skin of our teeth to win that game. This should be more like Duquesne than that, right?
Absolutely. I mean, again, at the time, Holy Cross was a FCS powerhouse, and they had a lot of guys that ended up transferring to JMU when Chesney left, or transferred to other FBS schools, or getting to the NFL, and they had a lot of good players on the team. I'll give them that. Fordham does not have that. They do not have. I don't think there's more than 5 players who would even be able to play at BC or at a Power 5 level. They lost guys to transfer portal and at graduation. It's just not a very good team. So, and BC, I think we've said that, BC lost their top talented players, obviously, in Trapilo and Ezaraku and all that. But I think the depth is a bit stronger now. And I think the roster is more well-rounded. So that should allow them to dominate Fordham pretty easily.
All right. In just a moment, Mitch is going to look at what we should be looking at in this game. What are some keys he's talking about and some players to watch for? We'll get into all that in just a moment. College football is back, and I couldn't be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, there's just nothing like it. But let's be real. Actually getting tickets can feel like more of a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping out at checkout. That's why I use Gametime, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. It's easy to see why you can score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you get. I pulled up Gametime, and in a couple taps, I saw amazing deals. I'm talking about any football game for $25. And I love zone deals too. Pick the section, Gametime picks the seats, and you save big. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply again. That's promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket. Go download Gametime today. Locked on Boston College, AJ Black here of Eagle Insider. Come over, check out Eagle Insider, by the way. My VIP service over an Eagle Insider is at 75% off. You got to check that out. It's $30 for the entire year. And if you're looking for a second listen, check out Locked On ACC with Kenton Gibbs and Alex Donald. We did a roundtable, had some great stuff. That's on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Now, back with Mitch. What are some things you're watching for in this game? I talked about a few that yesterday, and you can agree with me, or you have some things that you're looking for. What are some things that you're going to be looking for in a game that really there's not a lot to look at?
I do want to see what Tim Lewis does in terms of defensive play calls, because even though, again, I don't expect BC to be too aggressive or exotic on either side of the ball, last year when they played Duquesne, he didn't really play that game as I expected, where BC just kind of sits back in coverage, doesn't blitz a lot. They're more focused on stopping the pass, and they'll let the other team run. They played that game pretty aggressively. They played with heavier boxes. They blitzed Duquesne a decent bit. They played cover 1, cover 3. They didn't really back down from that. And it worked out very well, obviously. Now you look at Fordham, a team that is definitely a worse offense. Their offensive scheme is a little different. Even though they do have this RPO spread quick pass offense, they do like to throw the ball downfield. They are pretty aggressive with that. But I feel like he's going to play it the same. And now he doesn't really have the one-man game wrecker, or I guess two-man game wrecker with Ezraku and Horsley. So I am interested to see how he deploys his defensive tackles, especially. You've got a lot of depth. You got a lot of guys there. And we think Owen Stoudemire is probably going to miss this game due to the injury suffered during practice. So I want to see what those rotations look like. Can the FCS guys they brought up, if the FCS guys they brought up, Anya Nwosisi, Favor Bate, Elad Boykin, if those guys can't produce
Chuck Nato,
if those guys can't produce or succeed against an FCS offensive line, especially like one like this one, which was arguably the worst in the FCS last year, they allowed the most sacks per game. They were abysmal when it comes to pressure rate. They couldn't really get anything going in the run game until later in the year. If they can't really get anything going at this offensive line, then we're looking at some big trouble against FBS opponents down the stretch. So that's something that I'm looking at when BC's on defense.
So one thing that on Thursday, O'Brien had his press conference, and one name that popped up that really was interesting was he said Quan Williams was his most improved player that he's noticed at camp. That's maybe that's just covering for Stoudemire not being there, but I mean both of us have been talking about him for years. If he could really establish himself and really jump up to what he was supposed to be as a 4-star recruit, that would be a nice addition.
Yeah, he's had a weird career where he popped as a freshman, then kind of has faded into the background. But I think he and Neneto are going to be instrumental in this game, because you need to be able to stop Fordham's run game with light boxes so you can keep your coverage shell intact, prevent them from throwing over the top and getting explosive plays downfield. Because for Fordham to win this game, they need to hit on explosive passes and score quickly. They're not going to be able to win this in a knockdown, drag-out fight fashion. They need to get into a shootout, basically. So if you can win the line of scrimmage with your nose tackle, especially, and just clog all that up with light boxes, then you can put your other defenders elsewhere, get them outside to cover the receivers. Then you can really you can turn this offense into a one-dimensional offense, which is just throwing the ball. And again, they're not that good at that with the quarterback, the bad offensive line, the questionable receivers. So that's a very instrumental matchup for me, the one in the middle between the nose tackle and the center.
So speaking of the offense, what are some things you're going to be watching for specifically on the offensive side of the ball?
Well, like I said, I don't expect to see a ton. I think with regards to Lonergan, I just want to see him kind of be decisive, be quick, don't hold on to the ball too long, and try to make these big plays. And the other side of Fordham's ability to win this game, they need to explosive pass plays when they're on offense, and on defense, they need to create turnovers. And especially when they are backed up into their own red zone, or they have BC backed up deep in their own territory, because those will either take points off the board for BC quickly or allow Fordham's offense to score quickly with short fields. So you can't have Lonergan be pressing. You can't have him trying to make these big plays, trying to impress everybody. It's like, hey, just get the ball out. Don't hold on to it too long. Just take the open guy. Don't try to make these difficult throws and prove you're the man. You've got a whole season to do that. This should be an easy test. Just go out, hit the layups. Don't be the hero.
So you're not expecting any bombs?
I mean, I didn't either last year. And then Thomas Castellanos threw a few bombs to.
He looked like John Elway out there.
Yeah, exactly. So, maybe I think there'll be opportunities where they say, hey, like if you see that matchup and it's a guy like Reed Harris, who again is going to be every kind of mismatch possible against Fordham's defensive backs, okay, sure, take it. But don't be forcing anything where you don't need to. And I think BC is going to have enough talent on the outside, especially to spread Fordham out, and then even then just hand the ball off, check it down to the running backs. They're good receivers. I think again the offensive line. If they are struggling, then we've got a really big problem. I just don't foresee that really happening. And I think the interesting thing will be see who's with the second team once this game starts to get going and BC goes out to a pretty big lead. Who's the second team? Because you put in Grayson James, and that's a much bigger step up than it was Jacoby Robinson against Duquesne last year. So with Grayson James out there, who could have been the starter for this team,
Yep.
Who's he throwing to? How are they performing? How's the second team offensive line performing? If they're performing just as well, then we've got a good situation where if somebody does go down with injury, you can plug in a guy like a Ryan McCow or a Michael Crounce or Jack Funk.
Or Pop Sai.
Or Pop Sai, yeah. So I'm really interested to see the second unit on offense. Ideally, hopefully BC gets out to an early, quick lead so we can see more of them. And again, I don't think this game gives you a ton for projecting what the front line, the best of the offense will look like. But it'd be like, okay, these players will show out in certain ways. Then we can see how they can be used in the future.
So you kind of mentioned it. I'm going to throw some guys out there. I've talked, obviously I've had a daily Boston College podcast. I've been at practice for the last month, going to every practice I can get to. I think I only missed like 2 or 3. I've seen everybody. Against live play, what players I'm looking forward to watching live, Ty Lockwood, I think, is one that I have not really talked a ton about. I'm really interested to see what he looks like in the pass game. I think Jeremiah Franklin, we'll talk about him in the third segment. We know what we have there. And this is his big chance to really be the number one guy. Ty Lockwood, I'm really interested to see what he does on the offensive side of the ball. And defensively, especially we keep talking about how if BC tries to make this, if they're forcing it to pass, that secondary is going to kill them. They're going to kill the Rams.
Mm-hmm.
I want to watch KP Price out there because, I think this is his breakout year. I think, last year we saw him really kind of take that next step. The next step for KP Price in my eyes is like star level. Like he's going to get to that level. And so this is the perfect team for him just to go out there and just kill. So I'm looking forward to watching him. Are there any other players that I know you're further away. Are there players that maybe I've talked about or you just read about that you're looking forward to watch?
Yeah, I mean, on defense, I feel like we have to talk about Sire Torrance, who has been a star at camp. There's been some talk about him playing outside, some playing slot. So I want to see how they deploy him. I imagine he'll play a bit of both in this game. They might play him a little later than some of the established starters. So that'll be interesting for me. My guy, Jason Hewlett, the transfer from Michigan, seems like he could be in line to start. I'm very interested to see how he gets used in this game when you're going to need to kind of deploy an interesting defensive game plan against this kind of funky offense. On the other side of the ball, I guess I'm just kind of going to be interested to watch the line. It's not going to be sexy. It's going to be pretty boring for most people, but I think that's going to be fun to watch just to see what those guys are doing. Because we've seen these guys in bits and pieces, Kevin Klein, Dwayne Alec, even Michael Crown, some of these younger guys who haven't played yet. We've seen them bits and pieces, and some of them have been pretty nice, but I want to see them in more extended play, even if it is against an FCS opponent.
All right. In a moment, Mitch and I are going to give our first predictions for a game this year. I bet you're never going to guess who we picked to win this one. It's a big surprise. But before I get into that, I want to tell you about our listener survey. We have a listener survey right now here on Locked On BC, and I can't find the graphic, so I'm going to skip that. We have an important request. Locked On wants to hear from you. We put together a survey to learn about our listeners and make your favorite podcast even better. This is your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't, and answer questions about our advertising. Go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes a survey will be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. Again, that's lockedonpodcast.com/survey. You can also find the link in the show notes. Thanks again for helping us out. Hey, Boston College fans, are you still paying full price for gas? Stop leaving money behind. Get real cash back every time you fill up with the free Upside app. Simply download that free Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now and start earning cash at the pump today. Use my promo code FOOTBALL and get an extra 25 cents per back back per gallon on your first fill up. You could make up to $300 a year just from buying gas you already need. At first, I thought it was too good to be true, but it's totally legit. Real people are getting paid just to make their daily commutes, and you can too. Plus, you can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, or e-gift card for Amazon and other brands. Don't let this offer drive on by. Download the free Upside app now using my limited time promo code FOOTBALL for a limited time 25-cent per gallon bonus. That's promo code FOOTBALL. Offers vary by location. Go to upside.com for terms and conditions. Locked On Boston College, AJ Black here. Shout out to all my first listeners. If you listen to make Locked On Boston College your first listen every day, thank you so much. And to our everydayers who've been listening since camp, who've been listening since the beginning of the year, thank you. It's game time. This is our last episode. And I want to tell you before we get into this, I will be going live from the press box like I did all last year. This year, it's going to be on the Locked On Boston College podcast feed. Don't go to the Locked On Boston feed. They're not doing that anymore. It's here. So I will be in the press box talking game time. So check that out when you get a chance. All right, Mitch. Prediction time. What we're going to do here, I'm going to change things up. I'm going to ask you to give me your prediction, and I want you to give me 2 prop bets or player bets that you have of something that's going to happen in this game.
Okay. My prediction is that BC is going to win, obviously. I'm going to go with the final score of 52-7. I think BC is going to kick a field goal, and it will be good, which will be interesting to see. That's not my prediction, just saying that. But I think Fordham does get on the board, kind of probably a late game score where it's just kind of random and nobody's really trying, but it happens. And that's okay. That's fine.
Can I cut you off really quick?
Yep.
Because there was a news item for today that O'Brien named his punter and kicker. So Seamus Florio is going to be a starting punter, which I've been talking about on the podcast. He looked great. And Luca Lombardo is going to be a kicker. So that was new because it was on the depth chart as or for both, but he basically said it during today's press conference. So continue.
Man, the Patriots signed Tommy DeVito. Then we get two more Italians as BC special teams unit. Big ups in the North End. So I think we'll have a successful field goal. My other predictions would be if I could find a prop bet for any time BC non-offensive score, I would take it because I was watching some of the FBS FCS games earlier tonight. A lot of bad special teams from FCS teams. And also Fordham allowed 3 kick returns for touchdowns last year, which was tied for the second most in all of Division I. In FCS and FBS. So that is a problem. And not that BC's had a ton of success in the kick return department recently, but hey, maybe this is the one. And then my other prediction would be, I had it for a second. All right, here we go. Luke McLaughlin, an 8-time touchdown.
Oh, man. Kevin Stone of Eagle Action is going to be pumped about that pick. All right. I can't believe you went with that. That one shocked me. But that would be great. I mean, all the power to Luke. He's worked his butt off. That would be great. Anyways, my prediction. I have Boston College winning this one 45-0. I think BC's going to be just in control of this game. Very similar to last year where they're just going to dominate, and we're going to see the third and fourth quarter where Grayson James is going to be out there just running the ball with, Bo McCormick and doing not a whole lot, and BC's going to win.
And speaking of Italians, Enzo Arjona, this is going to be the most Italian football team in the world.
We've got a ton of it coming up. And so my 2 prop bets, and I had 2 really good ones. I think BC's going to hold Fordham to under 200 yards. I have no bet rationale. I don't have statistical backing behind this. I just think BC's going to hold them. If you read my, our over-unders on Eagle Insider, Mitch had all his statistic backing, and I said, this is my gut feeling. So, old school and new school, right? So, I'm going with that again. My other one, I really feel, and this is more based on this is more watching the team, knowing what they do. I think Jeremiah Franklin's going to have 2 touchdowns in this game. I think they go heavy with the big guys down low. And I think Franklin's going to be a guy that they look at a lot. So I'm going to go with Jeremiah Franklin to have 2 touchdowns in this game.
I would love this if I could do like BC tight ends, at least 3 touchdowns combined, because I feel like they'd get Franklin a touchdown, then they'll yank him. I assume he'll get a playing time, but like him, Lockwood, Moore, Chud, even like guys like Danny Edgehill or whatever. Like, I feel like you could get a lot of touchdowns out of tight ends in this department, but I mean, I don't hate that. in terms of any player on the offense to get multiple touchdowns. I don't hate Jeremiah Franklin at all.
And I have to say, and unfortunately Mitch is not around BC, the part that I am looking forward to most is that vibe when you get on campus. And like, I don't get to experience the vibe and be part of it because I'm covering the game, but seeing the tailgates, hearing the music, seeing all the maroon and gold, it's great to see all that again. And I'm excited to see you guys all. Now you guys have seen me all year. If you see me on campus, you can always shout out, "Hey." I'm happy to come over and say hi. But I'm going to probably shoot quickly to the press box and get to work. So enjoy the game, and I will be back on Saturday evening from the press box to do a post-game recap. Mitch, what would you like to say before we go?
I'm excited to see Bill O'Brien lose his mind on the defense again when they allow a few too many runs to go for first downs and he calls a timeout to chew them out, because I bet that's going to happen again.
Was that against Duquesne last year you did that?
Oh, yeah. And then they did stop them immediately. It was very funny. But yeah, so you can follow me at Mitchell T. Wolfe, WOLFE on Twitter, on Blue Sky. Check out my work on Eagle Insider. We had the matchup report earlier this week. I don't think it'll be free anymore. We did unlock all VIP content, so that's not free anymore. You should have signed up when you had the chance.
But you can get it on 75% off, which is basically free.
There you go. And my Freakly preview, which is a little less detailed, will be coming out on Friday when this episode comes out. So you'll be able to read that, check that out, and go Eagles. I'm so excited for this season. This is going to be I think it's going to be a really cool, fun season to cover BC.
Follow me on Twitter at AJBlack247. I'm available on Instagram, Blue Sky, Threads, Facebook, TikTok. I'm everywhere. Just check us out. We also have a new writer on Eagle Insight, Amia Dragoni, who's a new journalism student who is looking. Yeah, we get the Italians again. She's been great. She's been going to press conferences. Check her out. She's also writing for Eagle Insider now too, which is great. Thank you all for following along, and I'll see you on Saturday for another episode of Locked On Boston College, your team every day.